Hey, we are standing at the edge of a moment that feels both unbelievable and inevitable. A night that will be remembered as the first time Yemen's secret missile program erupted onto the global stage. Changing the balance of power in the Middle East in ways that, frankly, no one was prepared for. The breaking reports we're receiving, and I want to be clear, these are still developing, confirm that an unprecedented missile strike originating from Yemeni territory has ignited massive fires in Tel Aviv's main fuel depots. The scenes emerging tonight are harrowing, towering infernos lighting up the skyline. The sound of emergency sirens wailing across a city that has not seen devastation of this magnitude in decades. All night, the world witnessed a seismic shift in modern warfare, one that no intelligence analyst, no defense strategist, and no global observer could have fully anticipated. For the first time in history, Yemen has launched what officials are now calling a classified missile platform, a weapon system that until this moment was the stuff of speculation, rumors, and unconfirmed leaks. The strike did not just pierce the skies over Tel Aviv. It pierced the illusion that Yemen's military capacity was limited, contained, or predictable. This moment is a stunning reminder that in the theater of geopolitics, the weakest player can sometimes deliver the strongest shock. What makes this revelation so startling is not just the scale of destruction, but the element of surprise. For years, Yemen's defense program was believed to be under crippling sanctions, blockades, and international isolation. Western intelligence agencies had confidently concluded that Yemen's ballistic capabilities were primitive, largely dependent on outdated stockpiles and smuggled components. And yet in a single night, that narrative has collapsed. The missiles that rode out of Yemen's skies tonight were unlike anything previously seen. Fast, stealthy, and eerily precise. Reports from regional radar systems indicate that these projectiles slip through detection grids with minimal warning, a feat that has stunned defense spurts and exposed deep vulnerabilities in the world's most advanced interception networks. If this sounds impossible, it's because it nearly is. The idea that a nation torn apart by war, strangled by embargoes, and fractured by internal conflict could secretly develop a cutting-edge missile system reads like a plot ripped from a spy thriller. But here we are, and the implications are real, visible, and burning tonight on Tel Aviv's skyline. Experts are scrambling to understand how Yemen managed to keep such a program hidden. Some suggest covert assistance from foreign allies, possibly Iran or even non-state networks with access to advanced engineering blueprints. Others argue that Yemen's prolonged years under siege may have forced an unexpected innovation, the kind of desperate ingenuity born not in labs, but in the crucible of survival. Whatever the origin, the outcome is the same, a weapon that defied prediction. Eyewitnesses describe a thunderous rumble followed by a sudden explosion that lit the night like a second dawn. The trajectory of the missile, according to early satellite analysis, shows mid-flight corrections, suggesting onboard guidance systems far more advanced than anything previously attributed to Yemen's arsenal. This isn't a crude projectile. This is a statement engineered with precision and executed with chilling effectiveness. And that's what has intelligence communities around the world in shock. Because this isn't just a new weapon, it's a new precedent. The balance of deterrence, long dominated by nations with vast resources and sophisticated defense budgets, has been disrupted by a country most of the world dismissed as militarily irrelevant. It's a bold reminder that technological capability doesn't always follow the logic of wealth or stability. Sometimes it follows the logic of necessity, and necessity is the mother of revolution. There's a haunting irony here, too. For years, Yemen has been portrayed internationally as a victim of larger powers, a nation crushed beneath the weight of external intervention and humanitarian crisis. But tonight, it's that same nation that has displayed the power to reach beyond its borders, to strike with precision and purpose at one of the most heavily protected cities on earth. It's a narrative reversal so dramatic, it's almost cinematic. The underdog rising from the ashes of despair to challenge the giants who underestimated it. Defense officials are now warning that this event may mark the beginning of a new era of micronation deterrence, where smaller states, through secrecy and sheer innovation, gain the ability to alter global power dynamics without possessing vast arsenals. This changes the conversation entirely. No longer can major powers assume that surveillance satellites, intelligence sharing, and international monitoring are enough to detect every threat before it emerges. Somewhere in the shadows, Yemen quietly rewrote the rules, and tonight, the world is reading the fine print in flames. But beyond the political calculus, there's something profoundly unsettling about how invisible this buildup was. No leaks, no chatter, no intercepted transmissions, just silence and then impact. That silence speaks volumes about how modern intelligence, despite its reach, can still be blindsided by determination that operates outside its radar. Analysts now admit that Yemen's engineers may have used decoys, hidden facilities, and local manufacturing to mask their development, effectively outsmarting surveillance networks that have monitored the region for decades. The shock is so complete that even within military briefings tonight, there's a tone not just of alarm, but of disbelief. How did this happen under everyone's nose? How long has Yemen possessed this technology? And perhaps most chillingly, what else are they capable of that no one knows about? Those questions are echoing in real time across diplomatic channels. In late-night meetings in Washington, London, and Tel Aviv. This is not merely a military milestone, it's a psychological one. The world has learned tonight that secrecy can be more powerful than strength, that silence can be a weapon sharper than steel. In the high-stakes chessboard of modern conflict, Yemen just made a move that nobody saw coming, and now every other player is scrambling to understand what game they're actually in. And as the fires rage in Tel Aviv, the geopolitical temperature rises with them. Because the true explosion tonight was not just in the physical world. It was in the realm of perception. Yemen, once considered a pawn, has declared itself a player. And the world, stunned and off balance, is now forced to confront a truth it didn't want to see. That the balance of power in the Middle East has just shifted, and no one knows where it will land next. The night sky over Tel Aviv has turned into something unrecognizable, a horizon of fire, chaos, and disbelief. The city that once pulsed with the rhythm of modern life, of technology and resilience, now glows under a fiery hue born not of progress, but destruction. The unprecedented missile strike from Yemen has done more than just penetrate Israel's defenses. It has struck at the very heart of its critical infrastructure, setting ablaze Tel Aviv's main fuel depots in what officials are calling the most catastrophic attack in the nation's recent history. These depots, vital to Israel's energy lifeline, are now towering infernos, sending thick columns of black smoke curling into the atmosphere. What began as a routine evening quickly spiraled into a night of shock, fear, and uncontrollable devastation. Emergency sirens howled across the city as the first explosions tore through the southern industrial zones. The initial impact was so massive that it shattered windows miles away, sending waves of panic through neighborhoods unaccustomed to this scale of destruction. Within minutes, the sky lit up in a haunting orange glow as secondary explosions ripped through the storage tanks, each one feeding the blaze with torrents of flammable liquid. Firefighters rushed to the scene, but they were met with an inferno that defied containment. Walls of flames stretching hundreds of feet high, fueled by petroleum reserves meant to power an entire region. The heat radiating from the blast zone was so intense that emergency crews had to retreat repeatedly, their protective gear melting under the onslaught. And yet, what makes this attack truly haunting is not just the flames, it's the symbolism. Tel Aviv's fuel depots are more than industrial facilities. They represent Israel's strength, its endurance, its energy independence. To see them burning is to watch a symbol of national stability come undone in real time. This wasn't a random strike. It was a message, a deliberate targeting of the arteries that keep a nation alive. In a single night, Yemen's missiles didn't just ignite tanks of oil. They ignited a sense of vulnerability that Israel has not felt in decades. Witnesses described scenes of panic unlike anything they've ever seen. Families fled their homes as emergency vehicles clogged the streets, their sirens merging into one continuous deafening cry. Hospitals activated mass casualty protocols as dozens of injured residents poured in, many suffering from burns, smoke inhalation, and shrapnel wounds from the blasts. Power flickered across parts of the city, and communication networks briefly faltered under the strain. The air, thick with the stench of burning fuel, made it hard to breathe, turning every gasp into a reminder of the catastrophe unfolding outside. For Israelis, this attack cuts deeper than infrastructure. It's personal. Tel Aviv has always been the symbol of modernity, a city of light innovation, and defiance in the face of constant regional hostility. And yet, tonight, that city stands in darkness. The flames licking across the skyline are not just consuming buildings, they are consuming a sense of invincibility. The sheer audacity of striking such a critical target has left even the most seasoned military analysts stunned. The Iron Dome, the pride of Israel's defense, failed to intercept missiles that seemed to know exactly where to strike. It was as if these weapons had eyes programmed with chilling precision to find the weakest point and exploit it. As the hours stretch on, emergency crews continue their desperate struggle to contain the blaze, but each passing moment reveals the magnitude of the damage. Satellite images show sprawling zones of destruction, with smoke plumes drifting over the Mediterranean. Environmental experts are warning that the burning fuel could create toxic clouds capable of spreading across vast distances, threatening not just Tel Aviv, but neighboring cities. The once bustling port area now looks like a war zone. Twisted metal, charred pipelines, and cratered asphalt where life once thrived. International media have descended on the story, broadcasting images of the devastation to stunned audiences around the world. In capitals from Washington to London, leaders are holding emergency meetings trying to interpret what this means for regional stability. The sheer scale of the damage suggests careful planning, deep intelligence, and a willingness from Yemen's command to push boundaries no one thought they could reach. This wasn't an act of desperation. It was an act of strategic calculation. Yemen didn't just fire missiles, it fired a statement. There's a haunting rhythm to the chaos in Tel Aviv tonight. The constant hum of helicopters, the roar of the flames, the shouts of firefighters echoing against steel and smoke. The city's skyline, once defined by modern towers and bright lights, now flickers in shades of orange and red, a living painting of crisis. And yet beneath that visual horror lies an even deeper tension. How will Israel respond? Retaliation seems inevitable, but escalation could ignite a regional chain reaction that no one can control. For every action, there's a consequence. And tonight, the Middle East is holding its breath, waiting for the next move. For now, the focus remains on survival. Thousands of residents have been displaced as authorities urge evacuation from the danger zones. Schools, businesses, and transportation lines are paralyzed. The Israeli Energy Ministry has confirmed sore disruptions to the national grid, raising fears of fuel shortages and rolling blackouts. Economists are already predicting a ripple effect that could impact not just Israel, but global oil markets as the region reels from the shock. And amid all this chaos, one can't ignore the unsettling question emerging from this disaster. How did Yemen, long portrayed as a broken state, manage to hit the core of Israel's industrial might so accurately? The answer lies somewhere between advanced weaponry and psychological warfare. Because this attack, as devastating as it is physically, was also designed to send a message of dominance that no nation, no matter how powerful, is beyond reach. As Tel Aviv burns tonight, the flames tell a story that words can barely contain. A story of arrogance humbled, of unexpected power unleashed, and of a world forced to confront a terrifying new reality. The fire will one day die out, the smoke will clear, and the city will rebuild. But the memory of this night, when Yemen's missiles set Tel Aviv's heart ablaze, will linger as a permanent scar in the history of modern warfare. A night when the balance of fear was rewritten in fire. The shock reverberating through intelligence agencies tonight is not just about a missile strike, it's about a failure, a monumental awareness that has left military analysts, policymakers, and national security advisors scrambling for answers. For decades, Western intelligence networks have prided themselves on their ability to see everything, hear everything, and predict everything. Yet, in one devastating moment, Yemen, a nation under siege ravaged by war and presumed technologically stagnant, shattered that illusion. The successful deployment of a precision-guided missile system against one of the world's most heavily defended cities has exposed a blind spot so large it has stunned even the most seasoned intelligence veterans. The question echoing through every secure line tonight is the same: how did we miss this? For years, satellite surveillance, cyber espionage, and human intelligence have painted a detailed picture of Yemen's military landscape. Every known base, every suspected weapons cache, every movement of arms was cataloged, monitored, and assessed. Yet somehow, under the weight of that constant scrutiny, an entire missile program was born, tested, and perfected, all without a whisper reaching the radar of Western or Israeli intelligence. It's the kind of oversight that feels impossible in an era of global surveillance. But tonight, the evidence burns in Tel Aviv's skies, and the uncomfortable truth is clear. The world's most powerful intelligence apparatus was outplayed by a country most experts had written off as incapable of such innovation. Sources close to defense circles are already admitting off the record that this represents one of the most significant intelligence failures of the decade. The assumption that Yemen's capabilities were limited by poverty and isolation proved disastrously wrong. Intelligence reports had long dismissed Yemen's arsenal as a patchwork of outdated Soviet-era equipment and improvised rockets, nothing capable of evading modern air defense. And yet, what struck tonight was a missile that not only evaded detection, but executed its strike with pinpoint accuracy. That level of sophistication doesn't just appear overnight. It suggests years of research, secret development, and a network of expertise that no one knew existed. How Yemen managed to achieve this under international blockade and surveillance is the mystery unraveling in real time. Some analysts believe they may have received covert technical support from foreign powers, perhaps Iran, North Korea, or even rogue military engineers operating through black market channels. Others argue that Yemen, through necessity and sheer defiance, cultivated a hidden generation of scientists and engineers capable of producing homegrown innovation under impossible conditions. Whatever the truth, It's clear that this wasn't improvisation. This was planning, and it was executed with surgical precision. The implications of that planning are now being felt across the intelligence world. In Washington, London, and Tel Aviv, analysts are poring over satellite archives, desperate to find any missed clues. An unmarked warehouse, an unusual shipment, a sudden uptick in electrical output in remote areas. But the evidence is thin, almost non-existent. It's as if the program was designed not just to produce missiles, but to humiliate the intelligence community itself, to expose how blind they've become to unconventional threats. Yemen's secrecy wasn't just operational. It was psychological warfare. The nation managed to make the entire world look in the wrong direction while it quietly prepared to change the game. In the intelligence world, trust is built on patterns, on being able to predict behavior, detect anomalies, and interpret signals. But what happens when those signals disappear? Tonight, the pattern broke. Analysts who have spent years studying Yemen's communication channels say there were no detectable signs of coordination before the launch, no intercepted transmissions, no unusual troop movements, no satellite evidence of launch preparations. The missiles appeared, launched, and hit their target, all in a window too small for interception. That kind of stealth suggests mastery not just of missile technology, but of information control. And that's what has the intelligence community most unsettled. The failure wasn't just technological, it was conceptual. Intelligence agencies had grown complacent, assuming that power correlates with visibility. They believed that a country as fractured in war, torn as Yemen, could never pose a strategic threat to a military power like Israel. But tonight, that assumption collapsed. The greatest danger was never the one visible on the radar. It was the one hiding in plain sight, masked by chaos, dismissed as irrelevant. In the end, Yemen's invisibility became its greatest weapon. Inside secure command rooms, officials are quietly acknowledging this event exposes the fragility of modern intelligence, how it can drown in its own data. The more they looked, the less they saw. Endless streams of surveillance footage, intercepted communications, and satellite scans created an illusion of omniscience. But true intelligence requires more than information. It requires imagination, the ability to consider that something unthinkable might actually be possible. That imagination failed tonight. The result is not just embarrassment. It's a global reckoning. If Yemen can build a hidden missile system, who else might be doing the same? What other nations, dismissed as technologically inferior, are quietly developing capabilities under the world's nose? The implications stretch far beyond the Middle East. Defense analysts are warning that this incident could trigger a wave of military reassessments across dozens of countries, forcing new doctrines, new budgets, and a radical rethinking of what security really means in the 21st century. There's a haunting irony in how this unfolded. For years, Yemen has been the target of surveillance drones and intelligence gathering operations, yet it's Yemen that has now exposed the limits of those very tools. The world believed it could monitor every threat before it materialized. That technology had made surprise obsolete. But tonight, the smoke over Tel Aviv tells a different story. It tells of a world where secrecy can still triumph over surveillance, where ingenuity can still outwit power, and where the next great threat may not come from the nations we fear most, but from the ones we've stopped paying attention to. The intelligence community is left staring into the dark, trying to comprehend how a country buried under war managed to blind the world's most powerful eyes. It's a question that will haunt strategists for years, and a failure that, for one fairy night, rewrote the definition of unpredictability in modern warfare. The aftershocks of the Yemeni missile strike are rippling across the globe tonight, faster than the flames that engulf Tel Aviv's skyline. In capitals from Washington to Moscow, from Riyadh to Tehran, the phone lines have not stopped ringing. Governments are holding emergency sessions. Military advisors are being called out of bed. And global markets are bracing for impact. What began as a regional strike has now evolved into a worldwide political tremor. A moment that could redefine alliances, provoke retaliation, and reshape the fragile architecture of power in the Middle East. The world has seen conflict in this region before. But what's unfolding tonight feels different, more volatile, more unpredictable, and far more dangerous. In Israel, the atmosphere is thick with disbelief and fury. The Prime Minister has convened an urgent security meeting flanked by the heads of the IDF and Mossad. As the nation grapples with one of the gravest attacks on its homeland in recent memory, the official tone is defiant, but the tension is unmistakable. Military analysts say Israel now faces a strategic dilemma: how to respond forcefully enough to deter future aggression without igniting a regional war that could spiral beyond control. There are whispers of a potential retaliation strike deep inside Yemen, but also caution from some advisors who fear that such a move could draw in powerful allies on Yemen's side and turn this crisis into a multinational confrontation. Meanwhile, In Washington, the White House Situation Room is in full alert mode. The United States, Israel's closest ally, has been quick to condemn the attack, but behind closed doors, officials are wrestling with questions of capability and consequence. The Biden administration is under immense pressure to demonstrate support for Israel while also preventing a regional escalation that could threaten American interests. The U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet stationed in the Persian Gulf has reportedly gone on high alert, and intelligence satellites are now focused on Yemen's missile infrastructure, searching for signs of a second wave. American diplomats working around the clock are already reaching out to Riyadh, Cairo, and Ankara in a desperate attempt to build a coalition for de-escalation, but whether anyone can contain this storm remains to be seen. Iran's reaction has been predictably cryptic but loaded with significance. Tehran state media outlets are praising the technological triumph of resistance forces without officially claiming involvement. But the subtext is clear. Iran views this strike as a vindication of its long-standing narrative that smaller sanctioned nations can defy global superpowers through self-reliance and ingenuity. Analysts are warning that if Iran is indeed behind Yemen's sudden leap in missile technology, then tonight's events may be just the beginning of a much larger confrontation between regional blocs, one where every move is calculated not just for battlefield advantage, but for ideological messaging. Saudi Arabia, too, finds itself in an uncomfortable position. Having led a years-long campaign against Yemen, the kingdom now faces a sobering realization. The adversary it tried to contain has evolved into a capable, unpredictable military actor. Riyadh has reportedly reinforced its southern border defenses and placed its air force on standby, fearing potential spillover attacks.